A tranquil morning sun glistens over a stone bridge, spawning a bright blue pond. The dark-haired mother holds her daughter, cruelly questioning if a weak child could ever fulfill her wish. Standing before a tall figure, the small girl in purple robes softly confirms her willingness to help. As the girl begs for guidance, her mother instructs her to travel to the peak of Mountain Daichok. Legend says throwing a stone into the glowing mountain lake will summon a powerful ancient master. The girl stares out at the blossoming garden, contemplating the difficult journey her mother has proposed. Her eyes sparkle with determination as she enthusiastically accepts the dangerous quest to prove her worth. A biting wind howls through the frozen, snow-covered forest as the long climb finally begins. Wah! Transformed into a small white cat with two tails, the shifter struggles through the deep, powdery snow. Reverting to human form, the girl sneezes violently and complains about the unexpected mountain cold. Achoo! Shivering uncontrollably, she realizes she cannot survive the ascent in her current state and must change. With the sudden burst of energy, the girl leaps into the air to initiate her transformation. Hup! Mid-flight, her human form dissolves into the small white cat creature amidst a shower of magical sparks. Even in her furred state, the biting mountain air pierces through her as she lands on ice. The cat creature sighs, wishing she possessed the internal energy required to leap up the mountain instantly. Despite the cold, the blue-eyed cat creature narrows her gaze with a newfound sense of fiery resolve. She continues her arduous trek, leaving tiny paw prints across the vast, desolate stretches of frozen white. Reaching the summit, the cat creature gasps in amazement at the sight revealed before her eyes. She confirms her mother was right as she overlooks a massive shimmering lake nestled among jagged peaks. The girl shifts back and slides across the slick surface of the frozen lake with a landing. Catching her breath, she expresses immense relief at successfully reaching the top of the treacherous mountain peak. She attempts to heave a massive boulder, determined to follow the instructions for summoning the lake's master. Realizing the boulder is too heavy, the small shifter opts for a much more manageable stone instead. A thunderous, disembodied voice booms across the water, demanding to know who dared to strike the master. The cat creature is startled as a telepathic voice threatens to teach her a harsh, painful lesson. A colossal white snake with menacing red eyes erupts from the depths of the shimmering blue water. The tiny girl stands frozen in terror as the massive serpent looms high over the frozen lake. Narrowing its eye, the serpent calls her a tiny thing and asks if she threw the stone. Paralyzed by fear, the girl trembles violently as the overwhelming presence of the great serpent surrounds her. In a flashback, she recalls her mother's promise that obtaining an inner core would earn her acceptance. She remembers her mother showing affection to another child and vows to succeed to earn that love. Her small hand grips the cold ice as she steels herself for the confrontation with the master. Swallowing her fear, the girl asks the giant serpent if it is indeed the master of the lake. The snake laughs at her ignorance, confirming that people in the province recognize its authority and title. The girl remains huddled on the ice, gathering her courage to make her desperate and impossible request. The massive master of the lake peers down curiously at the insignificant human child trespassing on its territory. A vision of a glowing pearl explains that a core is the condensed power of ancient spiritual creatures. The snake realizes her intent, noting that asking for its core is an invitation for it to die. The girl prostrates herself on the ice, begging the serpent to hand over its vital internal power source. A frantic argument ensues as the girl desperately interrupts the snake's explanations with her persistent, tearful begging. As she pleads for just one core, the serpent loses its patience and roars a final refusal. A white-haired man in blue robes arrives, commenting on the incredible sight of the snake and girl. The girl looks back in shock, wondering if this newcomer has also come to claim the serpent's core. She notices a distinct cloud pattern on the man's uniform, a symbol that triggers a deep, instinctive fear. Terror washes over her face as she recognizes the identity of the man standing on the mountain peak. Her mind screams in panic as she identifies the newcomer as a member of the dreaded Namgung clan. Ancient records reveal the Mayo clan of cat shifters has long been tormented by the wicked Namgung dogs. A hand slams down in anger, recalling how the Namgung bastards brought the Mayo clan to ruin. Horrific stories of Namgung warriors ripping out the throats of Meow shifters fill the girl with dread. She shudders at the thought of the Namgung clan, believing it to be infested with cruel dog shifters. The small girl stares up at the white-haired Namgung Ho, fearing his clan sees her as a snack. Terrifying images of her mother and giant beasts haunt her as she wonders what to do now. Namgung Ho asks why she needs the core, making her tremble as she fears he might swallow her whole. Paralyzed by terror, the girl stammers before the stern patriarch while the massive serpent watches from the lake. With a sudden, desperate leap, the girl initiates her transformation to escape from the intimidating white-haired warrior. Mid-flight, her human form dissolves into a small white cat creature as the serpent identifies her Mayo lineage. Namgung Ho shouts for the child to stop immediately as she bolts across the desolate, snow-covered landscape. The tiny cat creature ignores his warnings and continues racing toward a dangerous rocky mountain precipice. A sharp cry echoes through the air as the cat creature realizes she is falling over a cliff. Staring down at the frozen abyss, the tiny creature feels a sudden hollow sense of confusion while she plummets. Falling into the darkness, she tearfully apologizes to her mother for failing to retrieve the vital inner core. Her human spirit resigns itself to a lonely death as she continues her long fall into the shadow. Recalling a rare moment of maternal affection, the girl weeps for failing the first chance she was ever given. Namgun Ho and the elder Dang Aimu find the unmoving cat creature lying silently in the frozen snow. Nam Gung-ho orders Dang Imu to check on the child as she wonders about the identities of these strangers. After a somber examination, Dang Imu concludes that there is no hope left for the broken child's recovery. Nam Gung-ho observes her state, stating that the child's internal energy meridians have been completely and fatally severed. Sacred texts reveal that meridians are the channels for energy and the absolute root of all martial arts training. While beastmen require internal energy to train their bodies, those with severed meridians are left physically broken and helpless. Severed channels cause energy to be blocked, making it nearly impossible for any creature to survive the trauma. Nam Gung-ho recognizes her as the Mao clan's eldest daughter, the martial arts cripple from the rumors he heard. A cold realization settles over the man as they conclude her own family sent her here to die. The cat creature weeps, finally understanding the true, cruel purpose behind her mother's impossible and dangerous quest. She realizes her mother hid the mountain's dangers because she never intended for her child to return alive. Heartbroken, the girl accepts that her own mother viewed her as a useless half-wit better off dead. Nam Gung-ho gathers the small, broken cat creature into his large, warm hands with a surprising display of tenderness. Feeling the heat of his protective embrace, the girl finds a brief moment of warmth before the end. A soft, peaceful sensation washes over her as her consciousness begins to fade into a gentle white light. Resting against the man's intricate blue robes, the small shifter drifts into what feels like a final sleep. She hears a familiar lullaby from her past, wondering if she has finally reached the realm of the dead. Thinking she is already dead, she calls out for her mother in the quiet, desolate, and snowy void. A sudden pain in her wrist shocks her awake as a mysterious floral mark begins to glow brightly. Intense heat radiates from the mark on her arm, causing her to cry out in sudden burning distress. The girl lets out a sharp, surprised "ah" as she lands face first in the cold powder, miraculously alive. She is bewildered by the sudden cold and the serpent's demanding question regarding her delay in answering him. The giant serpent repeats its demand, asking if she even understands what an inner core actually represents. Panicked, the girl remembers falling from the cliff but marvels that she is back at the lake uninjured. Nam Gung-ho approaches, noting that he found an interesting sight after investigating the loud noise in the mountains. The girl is shocked to see the man she remembers holding her in her vision of her own death. Her mind reels as she questions if she has truly returned to the moment just before her life ended. Despite the impossibility of the situation, she concludes that she has somehow come back to life to face her fate. Nam Gung-ho asks why she needs the core, but she remains unable to provide an answer to his question. He identifies her as the Mayo child with severed meridians, noting the rumors of the daughter who cannot use energy. Looking down at her small hands, she listens as Nam Gung-ho states her family clearly sent her here to die. The white-haired man admits to the serpent that he has no idea why she would seek its core. Narrations identify him as Sword King Nam Gung-ho, the supreme patriarch and the strongest warrior of the Nam Gung clan. He explains he arrived at the lake to share a drink, noting that today is a very significant date. Nam Gung-ho mentions the anniversary of Lady Wang's passing while looking out over the vast and frozen mountain peaks. He turns back to the child, asking if she has finally finished her silent, fearful contemplation and her hesitation. Nam Gung-ho demands she answer his question about who exactly gave her the order to retrieve the inner core. Facing the massive serpent, the girl admits to Nam Gung-ho that her mother sent her. Distraught, she turns away and blames herself for the failure of her mother's request. The great serpent telepathically observes that the girl's mother knowingly sent her to certain death. As Nam Gung-ho demands her location, she worries about revealing her identity as a cat beast man. Recalling his previous kindness, she wonders if the intimidating man is actually a good person at heart. The two stand on the frozen lake as a heavy silence falls between the man and child. She fears that despite his kindness, he would never accept a member of the Mayo clan. Startled by the man's sudden shout, the small girl yelps in surprise. A sudden twitch reveals the girl's hidden cat ears to the observant patriarch. She trembles as the man realizes her lineage, fearing his reaction to her Mio clan origins. The serpent identifies her as the rumor-shrouded eldest daughter who lacks internal energy. Nam Gung-ho gazes at her with a heavy heart, disgusted that a child was used as bait. He worries about her survival, knowing she will perish in the cold if left alone. Resigned to the truth, the girl tearfully acknowledges her mother's intent to let her die. Overwhelmed by the cruel betrayal, the small child breaks down into uncontrollable sobs. Nam Gung-ho clenches his fist, his expression hardening as he looks at the broken girl. He stares at her with a look of deep pity, moved by her desperate situation. A tender memory of a past embrace with a loved one flashes through his mind. Recalling the words of his late wife, he feels a renewed sense of duty. He looks toward the weeping child, his stern resolve beginning to soften. Amidst a vision of blooming petals, the girl looks up at the man with hope. The patriarch finally speaks, addressing the girl by her name, Hong Seol. The giant serpent is taken aback by the man's sudden and unexpected familiarity with the child. Nam Gung-ho extends a hand toward her, gently inviting the girl to come with him. The serpent roars in disbelief, questioning the wisdom of bringing a cat beast man into the clan. Looking at his open palm, she confirms her belief that he is truly a good person. With hesitating fingers, she begins to reach out toward the patriarch's large protective hand. Her strength fails her, and she begins to collapse as she tries to reach him. Fear flashes across the man's face as he lunges forward to catch the falling child. A sudden exclamation rings out as the girl loses consciousness. Catching her in his arms, the panicked man cries out to the unconscious little one. The serpent scolds the man, blaming his harsh words for shocking the poor girl. Dang Emu arrives to check her pulse, telling the serpent to remain quiet. Poof! The elder appears in a cloud of snow, noting the girl's critical physical state. Dang Emu dismisses the idea of simple energy blockage, insisting the situation is far worse. A vision reveals her energy channels are completely blocked, resembling a mountain road buried by boulders. Nam-gung-ho decides to use his own internal energy to perform a deeper investigation. Focusing his immense power, he prepares to probe the child's shattered meridians. Flash! A brilliant light illuminates the man's face as he discovers the truth. The investigation confirms a terrifying diagnosis. The girl suffers from yin-yang severed meridians. Sacred texts describe this condition as an incurable disease that prevents energy circulation from birth. Those born with this affliction are cursed to suffer and die at a young age. The girl's specific condition is even rarer, as she possesses both powerful opposing energies. Covered by the man's heavy blue robe, the small girl sleeps peacefully amidst the chaos. Dang Emu warns of her imminent death, but Nam-gung-ho asks about a possible cure. The man contemplates the power she could possess if her constitution were successfully treated. He realizes that her unique body would be the perfect vessel for an ancient art. The legendary yin-yang divine art is a supreme skill capable of mastering conflicting energies. Nam-gung-ho reveals to his companion that finding such a disciple is his lifelong wish. Dang Emu remains skeptical, noting that the cure for such meridians has been lost for centuries. Dang Emu highlights the rarity of the condition and questions who could possibly treat it. Nam-gung-ho mentions Bing Yu-ha as a vision of a white-haired woman appears behind him. He identifies her as the medical hall head, while the gray-haired elder reacts with surprise. Nam-gung-ho sighs, noting that the specialist is unfortunately away from the clan right now. Staring over the snowy mountains, Dang Emu realizes the patriarch is truly serious about this. Dang Emu mentions the child learning a divine art, but Nam-gung-ho focuses on her cure. The elder questions how a beastman child can ever hope to join the human Namgung clan. A vision of seated clan elders appears as Dang Emu mentions their obsession with direct bloodlines. He warns that they will never accept an outsider regardless of her potential for divine arts. He specifies their disdain for Cat Beastman as Nam-gung-ho holds the unconscious brown-haired girl. Wrapped in the patriarch's patterned robe, the small cat creature sleeps peacefully amidst the cold. Nam-gung-ho looks down at her with a silent, heavy expression as snowflakes fall around them. He determines that finding a way to integrate her into the clan is a secondary problem. He declares their immediate priority is keeping the girl alive until the clan's healer finally returns. Nam-gung-ho turns to Dang Emu and sternly demands he hand over a specific valuable item. The two men stand on the frozen landscape as the elder questions the patriarch's sudden demand. Dang Emu yells, calling him an old fossil for asking for something so incredibly precious. Nam-gung-ho demands he give it up for the child's sake, sparking a loud verbal argument. Ha! A large group of young disciples practices their martial arts swings with wooden training swords. The scene shifts to the grand sunlit entrance of the Namgung clan's sprawling mountain estate. A mustachioed man tells the training disciples to wrap up for dinner and get some rest. The disciples bow as the grand patriarch returns to the courtyard carrying the wrapped child. The young trainees look on with confusion, wondering about the mysterious bundle their leader is holding. Floating sweet potatoes fill the air as they wonder if he is carrying a large vegetable. Nam-gung-ho ignores the whispers and continues walking toward the inner chambers with the small girl. A small boy notices his arrival and shouts out for his grandfather with sudden bright excitement. Nam-gung-jek, the youngest grandson, runs forward to greet him with a wide, happy smile. Nam-gung-ho asks what he was waiting for, and the boy admits his curiosity about cores. Jaeak asks if the serpent gave him a core, wondering if they are becoming a trend. The boy brings up his grandfather's previous excuse, causing the patriarch to look slightly embarrassed. Ouch! A hand suddenly reaches out and delivers a sharp bonk to the younger boy's head. An older boy scolds his brother, telling him to be more observant of their grandfather's teasing. Nam-gung-huk, the second grandson, reminds them of their dignified status within the Orthodox sects. Nam-gung-ho smiles, praising the 9-year-old for acting like a proper and responsible older brother. His expression hardens slightly as he notes that the eldest grandson is missing once again today. He concludes that the eldest's absence is expected given the somber significance of the current date. The boys notice the patriarch's bundle and ask if the mountain serpent gave him something special. Nam-gung-ho decides there is no reason to hide the girl's presence from his own grandsons. Whoa! The boys cry out in shock as the patriarch reveals the small, sleeping, brown-haired girl. They gasp in utter disbelief when their grandfather explains that she is actually a cat beastkin. Nam-gung-ho warns them that her identity must remain a strict secret if she stays here. He assures them that he will handle any objections raised by the clan's more traditional elders. Looking at her peaceful face, Nam-gung-hyuk worries she will be terrified when she finally wakes. He explains that their clan is known for its intensity and its intimidating martial arts reputation. A vision shows a fierce black wolf looming over a small cat, illustrating the clan's nature. The estate is bathed in a red glow as narration identifies them as a family of wolves. Nam-gung-ho admits he hadn't considered if the child would be afraid of their wolf-like nature. He recalls that she recognizes clan's identity and still begged to be taken with him. A memory flashes of the tearful girl pleading for him to take her away from her life. No! The two boys shout firmly when asked if they will bully her for being weak. Reassuring his grandsons, Nam-gung-ho accepts their promise to be kind to the small child. He emphasizes that being good protectors is far more important than their predatory wolf lineage. After the long journey, the patriarch decides that their first priority must be to feed her. Handing over a great bundle, the patriarch orders Namgung Helk to have it stir-fried immediately. Sudden awareness returns as the brown-haired girl wakes with a frantic cry for her grandfather. A shadowy room filled with storage barrels echoes with a sharp call for the young lady. A harsh memory surfaces as a maid roughly grabs the small girl, making her yelp. The maid scolds her for dawdling, accusing her of acting out regarding her new room. Trembling, the girl explains she was simply trying to pack away her most precious treasures. The maid scoffs at the treasures, dumping out a box of pebbles and old string. To the child, these discarded items were golden threads and fine jade beads in her imagination. She recalls her sister Ga Ryong receiving real gifts while she could only dream of them. Watching her mother walk away, the girl realizes how long it's been since they truly met. Everything changed the day her parents discovered she was unable to utilize any internal energy. Before the discovery, the Mayo clan had praised her as a genius and their precious successor. A white-haired healer delivers the grim news that her meridians are severed and permanently unfixable. Her mother asks if she is broken while the girl desperately tries to offer comfort. Coldly dismissing her daughter, the woman declares the child is now completely useless to them. The girl is ordered to be locked away as her mother begins ignoring her very existence. From the shadows, she watches her sister's happy life, wishing her mother would love her again. A servant drags her back, warning her to stop bothering the mistress of the house. Pleading for a single moment of attention, the girl promises to do anything her mother asks. Her mother smiles darkly, asking if she'll grant a wish by visiting the dangerous Mount Dachok. The mother commands her to go to the mountain peak, an area known for its locality. With a final command to never return, the girl wakes up with a horrified gasp. Realizing it was a nightmare, she finds herself safe within the Namgung clan's guest chambers. She remembers her mother's betrayal and marvels at how she is alive after the ordeal. Waking fully, she looks around in confusion as a kind voice notes she is finally awake. Namgung Ho enters carrying a tray of snacks, asking if the delicious aroma woke her. Recognizing her savior, the girl sits up and offers her heartfelt thanks for being brought here. A loud, long growl sounding from her stomach interrupts the polite moment with a cute rumble. Embarrassed by her hunger, she eyes the sweets and realizes she hasn't eaten in days. Her eyes widen with excitement at the thought of finally tasting the traditional treats. She hopes the patriarch is kind enough to share a piece of candied fruit with her. The man's voice turns stern as he declares there will be no candied fruit for her. Terrified, she falls into a deep bow, apologizing for her greed and overstepping her bounds. She trembles on the bed, assuming the sweets belong to someone much more important than her. Looking at his stern face, she begs the powerful man not to punish her for being hungry. Seeing his silence, she fears he is upset and will kick her back into the cold. Ho clarifies the sweets are hers, but insists she eat a proper meal before having dessert. He calls for the servants to bring in the massive dinner they have specially prepared. A huge feast is laid out as Ho notes the girl is dangerously thin and weak. He presents the meal, mentioning there is a very specific item she must consume for health. A loud, energetic shout rings out as the grandsons argue over who gets to carry a dish. An older voice warns that the item is extremely precious and must not be spilled. The younger boy, Namgung Jaek, insists he can carry the tray better than his older brother. A weary sigh sounding from the patriarch follows as the two boys continue their loud bickering. Ho tells the boys to stop fighting as they enter to greet the newly awakened girl. They announce the arrival of the stir-fried 10,000-year Foti, leaving Hong Sol very confused. Trying to remember, Seal realizes she has heard of this legendary, incredibly valuable medicinal root before. Seeing the glowing root, the girl realizes it is an incredibly legendary elixir. A sudden, quick flash sounding matches the shock in the brown-haired girl's wide eye. She wonders if the Namgung clan really consumes such priceless medicines as simple side dishes. Under a bright moon, a white-haired girl in blue robes watches the estate from a tree. The mysterious white-haired girl gazes down with deep blue eyes and a solemn expression. Mumbling to herself, she decides the newcomer is none of her business and turns away. Inside the grand estate, the scene shifts as the patriarch prepares to address the boys. The boys are introduced as the ponytail-wearing Namgung Huk and his younger brother, Namgung Jak. Represented as a tiny cat, the girl is overwhelmed by the grandson's rapid-fire personal questions. Namgung Huk is caught off guard, blinking in surprise as the patriarch suddenly interrupts them. Namgung Ho bellows at the boys, ordering them out before they give the girl indigestion. Burning with comedic fury, the patriarch shoos his grandsons away to let the child eat. The two boys float away as tiny silhouettes, obediently acknowledging their grandfather's stern command. With the energetic grandsons finally gone, the atmosphere in the dining room becomes peacefully quiet. Namgung Ho sighs, wondering who they take after while the girl notes his secret kindness. Ho encourages the girl to eat her fill of the lavish steaming feast provided. Despite her hunger, the girl worries that being too greedy might get her kicked out. A quick, curious glance sounding follows as her eyes drift toward the plate of treats. She looks longingly at the flower-shaped sweets, wishing she could taste just a single one. While the patriarch eats, he notices the child staring intensely at the plate of dessert. Ho teases her, realizing she prefers the sugary treats over the main course of dinner. Smiling, the man insists she try the medicinal root first before moving on to sweets. The girl recognizes the item as the legendary 10,000-year Foti and gasps in shock. Gently holding a piece of the root, Namgung Ho tells the girl to open wide. Though she insists she can eat alone, the patriarch feeds her the bitter medicine himself. Her eyes bulge in shock as a sudden sharp jolt sounding accompanies the intense flavor. The overwhelming bitterness of the legendary root causes the small girl to recoil in disgust. Trembling from the harsh taste, she is met with the patriarch's light-hearted laughter. Ho explains that she must chew the medicine thoroughly to heal her weak, frail body. Praising her for swallowing the bitter root, the patriarch finally offers her a sweet reward. A soft, comforting pat sounding follows as Namgung-ho rewards her bravery with a treat. The girl happily accepts the sweet snack, the sugary taste finally washing away the bitterness. She finds it strange to be praised so highly just for eating what was given. The girl eats the sweet, finding comfort in the simple pleasure of the delicious food. Ho asks if she feels any physical changes, leaving the girl confused by the sudden question. Concentrating, she realizes there is a faint, ticklish sensation blooming deep within her lower abdomen. When she mentions the feeling, the patriarch identifies it as the awakening of her energy center. He tells her to focus as he prepares to guide the energy with his finger. Ho explains that she must circulate the medicine's power to properly heal her damaged body. The patriarch concentrates, focusing his own inner strength to help guide the child's new energy. A soft, precise tap sounding marks the moment his finger touches her tiny energy center. He commands her to imagine the medicine's energy flowing into every single corner of her body. Closing her eyes, the brown-haired girl focuses intensely as a brilliant light begins to glow. She feels legendary paths opening within her as energy forms a spinning yin-yang symbol inside. Suddenly, the patriarch shouts for her to stop, snapping the young girl out of her trance. Namgung-ho looks at her with sheer disbelief, wondering if he has pushed her too far. Fearing she has done something wrong, the trembling girl immediately offers a tearful, panicked apology. To her surprise, the patriarch's stern face breaks into a wide, incredibly joyous and proud smile. He declares she has extraordinary energy sensitivity, rivaling even the talent of his own grandsons. Placing a hand on her shoulder, the patriarch gazes at the bewildered girl with immense admiration. The patriarch holds the brown-haired girl's shoulders, gazing at her with intense, newfound interest. Her wide amber eyes reflect her utter confusion at the powerful man's sudden shift in tone. He reveals his original intent was merely to keep her alive with the legendary medicinal root. Floating within a glowing blue aura, the girl's body responds as he tries to heal her meridians. He marvels at her incredible energy sensitivity as she effortlessly follows his mental lead during the treatment. Legend states those with severed meridians possess extraordinary talent, and Ho believes the myths are true. Ho declares her a once-in-a-lifetime prodigy and vows to personally take charge of her martial training. A sudden sharp zap sounding startles the girl as Ho identifies the estate in his pavilion.
She asks for his identity, and he proudly confirms he is the former head of the clan.
Ho explains that training under him is a rare opportunity that many would kill to have. The girl leaps from her seat, bowing deeply as she stammers out her gratitude to her benefactor. A light, quick step sounding follows as she calls him a great hero for saving her life. Ho chuckles at her formal speech, though he admits there is a catch to his training offer. A small, anxious squeeze sounding accompanies her confession that her body simply cannot utilize any internal energy. The white-haired man looks down at her with a pained expression, realizing the depth of her trauma. He recalls she was discarded for being weak, realizing his offer of training was perhaps too insensitive. Desperate to stay, the girl offers to work as a maid, but Ho rejects the idea immediately. He clarifies that she is a guest of the former patriarch, leaving the girl completely stunned. Ho insists he did not bring her to his home to force her into doing menial labor. When she asks if she can stay, he assures her that his word is law in this house. He apologizes for pressuring her, gently stroking her long hair to comfort the trembling child. A single tear tracks down her cheek as she feels the warmth of his genuine fatherly kindness. She forgives him for being pushy, and the patriarch smiles, appreciating her maturity and gentle heart. Noting the late hour, Ho tells her to rest and calls for an attendant to assist her. A smooth, quick slide sounding heralds the arrival of a maid, whom Ho orders to serve respectfully. The maid notes that tailoring new clothes will take time, and Ho agrees she needs an outfit. The patriarch falls into a deep, pensive silence, making a thoughtful sounding as he considers options. He commands the maid to dress the girl in a specific mystery outfit, shocking the attendant. Bowing deeply, the brown-haired maid promises to prepare the clothes immediately despite her obvious internal hesitation. As she turns away, a narrative bubble notes the maid's dark and troubled expression regarding the choice. A curious, tiny twitch sounding follows as the girl wonders what kind of outfit could cause such shock. She watches the maid leave, still trying to imagine what the former patriarch has in store. A sudden, energetic pop sounding marks the moment the maid asks the young lady to follow her. Bowing one last time, the girl bids her benefactor good night, and the patriarch wishes her sweet dreams. Mayran leads the girl down the hall, warning her to walk carefully as her expression remains grim. Realizing the girl's hesitation, the maid offers her hand so she won't get lost in the estate. A soft, comforting brush sounding accompanies the moment their hands join as they walk through the pavilion. The girl is relieved by the maid's warmth, and Mayran formally introduces herself to the guest. Reaching a room, the maid asks the girl to wait while she retrieves the requested mystery clothing. The girl asks if the patriarch has a granddaughter, and Mayran explains daughters are exceptionally rare. Confused, the girl asks whose clothes she will be wearing if there are no other young girls. Mayran hesitates, explaining it is improper for a maid to discuss the private affairs of the masters. Fearing she has overstepped, the girl quickly apologizes and promises not to ask any more prying questions. In a stylized chibi moment, the two are shown holding hands against a warm, flowery background. The girl is startled by the mention of a bath, her eyes widening in comedic shock. A loud, heavy splash sounding echoes through the room as steaming water is poured into a tub. Mayran calls out for the young lady to enter, holding a wooden bucket as the room steams. Depicted as a soaked, angry cat, the girl grumbles about water being a natural enemy to felines. She marvels at the warmth of the water, prompting a worried Mayran to ask if it's hot. The girl worries about wasting hot water and insists she is capable of washing herself without help. Mayran encourages the brown-haired girl to speak more comfortably, and she tentatively tests out her name. Gently brushing the child's hair, Mayran tells her she should never hesitate to ask for anything. The maid insists the girl is at an age where she deserves to be pampered by everyone. Mayran apologizes for her forwardness, explaining that her many younger siblings made her act quite naturally. Mayran explains that Pavilion guests are rare and she simply wants to serve her precious guest well. A soft, quick thump sounding follows as the girl appreciates the maid's warmth compared to others. Convinced of the clan's kindness, she is startled when Mayran notices something unique on her arm. A soft, rhythmic splash sounding follows as Mayran points out 2 red snowflake birthmarks. She explains her name, Hong Seol, comes from the marks, then suddenly realizes something is wrong. Internal panic sets in as she realizes she is only seeing 2 snowflake marks instead of 3. Staring at the water's reflection, the girl wonders if one of her birthmarks has truly disappeared. She remains deeply troubled, certain she had 3 marks before her mysterious trip through time. As Mayran dries her off, the child wonders if her time travel altered her physical body. The maid presents a lavish array of colorful garments, inviting the young lady to choose any outfit. After dimming the lamp, Mayran bids her goodnight and tells her to call if she needs help. The brown-haired girl looks incredibly small and lonely as she lies in the center of the massive bed. Sleep eludes the child as she stares wide-eyed into the dark, overwhelmed by the day's events. She recalls her birthmarks and the maid's kindness, her mind spinning with too many unanswered questions. Deciding she cannot sleep, the girl resolves to step outside and clear her head with fresh air. Standing on the balcony, she marvels at the breathtaking scale and beauty of the massive estate grounds. Her gaze is caught by a strange, glowing white figure moving through the distant moonlit garden. A soft, distant swoosh sounding follows as the mysterious silhouette wanders through the dark, silent trees. Depicted as a startled cat, the girl wonders if she is actually seeing a ghost in the pavilion. The next morning, Mayran looks surprised as the girl brings up the topic of a ghost. The girl insists she saw a spirit and even pinched herself to ensure it was not a dream. Mayran dismisses the story, claiming no ghost would dare set foot within the prestigious Namgung estate. The maid explains that the great patriarch is far more terrifying than any phantom could ever be. Mayran laughs, noting that Ho's voice would scare any ghost, but the girl remains deeply thoughtful. The child recalls that the lonely figure she saw last night was wearing distinct white clothing. When she mentions how lonely the figure looked, the maid's expression softens into one of realization. Mayran clarifies that the ghost was actually the patriarch himself wandering the grounds late at night. She reveals that Namgung Ho has been suffering from a painful bout of insomnia for many years. At the breakfast table, the patriarch gestures toward the food and invites the child to eat. Ho discusses his busy afternoon schedule while the girl looks at him with newfound understanding and pity. Observing the dark circles under his eyes, she confirms that her benefactor is the one suffering. Seeing his broken state reminds her of her own mother's painful struggle with the same sleepless condition. Namgung Ho teases her about staring, jokingly asking if she wants him to feed her the meal. The girl asks for permission to explore outside, but the patriarch offers to take her himself later. She insists on going with Mayran instead, secretly hoping to find a way to help her benefactor. Her secret plan is to visit the medical hall and obtain medicine to cure the patriarch's insomnia. The girl specifically searches for sun-greeting grass to repay him for the expensive medicine he gave her. A soft, steady munch sounding follows as she eats while the patriarch watches her with curiosity. A man in purple robes informs the girl that they are currently out of sun-greeting grass. The brown-haired girl looks up with a shocked expression, her eyes widening at the disappointing news. Standing on a stool, the child stares at the man across the counter in complete disbelief. Her eyes remain wide as she processes the fact that the specific herb she needs is unavailable. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding marks the moment she spots something interesting on the medicine shelves. The medical staff members are overcome with joy, fawning over how adorable the patriarch's guest is. A stern, black-haired man scolds the staff, ordering them to stop being rude to the young lady. Confused by the sudden chaos, the girl watches as the workers are sent back to their stations. The physician apologizes for the noisy staff, explaining they are desperate for distraction before asking why she is seeking sun-greeting herbs. She explains she wants to make medicine to help with sleep, and the brown-haired man acknowledges those herbs are quite effective for that.
From what she's heard, the herb grows anywhere with enough sunlight, so she asks why the medical hall doesn't have any.
He explains that the Namgung clan doesn't really require sleep-inducing herbs, leaving the brown-haired girl looking completely stunned by his answer. The physician clarifies that everyone in the estate basically passes out the very moment that night falls. A sharp "ha" sounding follows as exhausted disciples train, making the child wonder if they simply need a different kind of treatment. When the girl brings up the Grand Patriarch's condition, the physician admits there is a specific unusual reason for that as well. A sudden choked gek sounding marks the revelation that the Great Patriarch actually hates the scent of the sun-greeting herb. The physician explains he would have told her sooner had he known her intentions, noting the Patriarch has very stubborn preferences. A heavy silent "oh" sounding follows as the chibi girl turns gray, realizing why the medical hall keeps no sun-greeting herbs. He tells her not to worry because the medical hall provides the Patriarch with many other highly effective sleep-inducing tonics. A weary sigh sounding follows the admission that none of those tonics have actually worked to cure his long-standing insomnia. The physician mentions that if she truly needs the sun-greeting herb, she might still find some growing within the gardens. Mayran explains that they mostly use the herb as a simple garnish for food rather than for any serious medicinal purposes. Mayran tells the young lady not to be sad, assuring her that her kind intentions will be enough for the Patriarch. When the maid offers to show her somewhere else, the girl declines, not wanting to be a bother to Mayran any longer. The girl politely thanks the physician, who waves off her gratitude as being nothing at all as she prepares to leave. A soft, rhythmic tabak sounding follows her footsteps as the child walks away from the busy medical hall. The staff feel bad for making her upset with their chatter, but the girl realizes there is nothing more she can do. She reflects on her gratitude, thinking about how her benefactor, Ingong, has already given her so much since her arrival. Looking out over the massive estate grounds, the small child desperately wonders what she should do to repay his kindness. She recalls the painful memory of her mother suffering from insomnia because her daughter was a useless child who couldn't use energy. She remembers pestering an annoyed maid until she finally learned about the insomnia-curing properties of the sun-greeting herb. In her memory, she had hoped that if she carefully prepared the herb for her mother, the woman would finally look at her. A sharp, shattering crash sounding marks the moment the plate broke as her mother coldly ordered her to turn around. Stuttering out a plea for her mother, the child was met only with the harsh, repetitive command to turn around. Her mother's cold shadow loomed over her as she demanded the child turn around and leave the room immediately. Looking back on that dark and lonely moment, she realizes that perhaps she understood the painful truth even back then. She felt smaller than a tiny speck of dust to the mother who was supposed to care for and protect her. The crushing weight of the memory reminds her that she was never truly needed by the family who discarded her. Despite the trauma, she decides to take a chance and act on a small hope just in case it might work. A quick, bright snap sounding heralds the lighting of a candle as she prepares for her secret nighttime mission. A low creak sounding follows as she slips out, determined to help Yungong because she still wants to be of use. She is driven by her deep gratitude because her benefactor, the Great Patriarch, is such a genuinely warm and kind person. Quietly apologizing to Mayran for sneaking out, she hurries toward the garden to pick some sun-greeting herbs. A sudden, painful snap sounding accompanies the moment her foot catches on a stone while she runs through the dark. A heavy, clumsy thump sounding marks her fall as she loses her balance and stumbles hard onto the wooden walkway. Groaning ouch while nursing her scraped knees, she realizes she shouldn't have run so recklessly through the estate at night. A faint, lingering shh sounding causes her to freeze and look back, wondering if she just heard something moving in the dark. A startled twitch sounding follows as her hair stands on end, making her wonder if she is actually seeing a ghost. Springing up with a quick dash sounding, she reminds herself that no ghost would dare haunt a place with such a scary patriarch. A quick rustle sounding follows as she hurries away, unaware that the white-haired patriarch is watching her from the shadows. The patriarch watches her with a pensive sounding, wondering what the child could possibly be doing out so late. He admits to himself that he followed her because it's dangerous to be out alone at night, though he remains confused. A rhythmic scrape sounding accompanies her digging in the garden, leaving the watching patriarch completely baffled by her behavior. After a sharp sniff sounding, the patriarch realizes she's picking the herb he hates, eliciting a disgusted, silent quack sounding. Watching her harvest the plants, he wonders if the young lady is simply planning to play house with the herbs. Bright morning light filters through the soft curtain, signaling the start of a brand new day within the pavilion. A triumphant ta-da sounding accompanies the presentation of small herbal balls laid out neatly on a white ceramic plate. The patriarch stares at the plate with visible disdain and confusion, wondering what these herbal items are doing on his table. Mayran explains that the young lady spent all night preparing these medicinal balls herself. Hearing they are for insomnia and made of sun-greet herb, the patriarch looks completely stunned. Recalling her digging alone in the dark garden, he realizes her selfless devotion to him. A soft, silent psh sounding follows as he smiles gently at the child's sincere effort. The young girl's eyes sparkle with immense happiness as she realizes her gift was accepted. A quick yeah sounding follows his claim she didn't need to bother, causing a defensive reaction. She acknowledges his dislike for the scent, but insists the medicine is necessary for his health. Clenching her dress, she argues that effective medicine is always bitter, and she takes hers. A sharp booming sound follows as she yells for her benefactor to eat the bitter medicine. Blushing deeply, the child yells for him to stop being such a picky eater. Maids gossiping nearby note that the patriarch has been ordering meals for 2 people lately. They discuss how he eats every single meal with the young lady he recently adopted. One maid finds it hard to imagine him being so caring as he feeds the girl. They speculate that granddaughters are treated differently than the grandsons he is so strict with. A loud, echoing shout follows the child's continued insistence that he must eat the medicine. The patriarch stares in shocked silence while Mayran covers her mouth in absolute horror. A quick ha sounding marks the patriarch's sudden, genuine amusement at being scolded by a child. The patriarch laughs heartily as the small girl stands her ground with determined flushed cheeks. He asks whose child is so spirited while the maid remains completely dumbfounded by the interaction.
She claims her scolding was only for his sake, and he promises he heard her.
A soft, radiant ha sounding follows as the girl's face lights up at his promised cooperation. The patriarch mentions that there is something important he wishes to discuss with the child. Suggesting benefactor is too formal, he reminds her she used to call him her grandfather. She explains that benefactor is a more respectful title for the person who saved her life. The patriarch listens to her reasoning, but maintains that the formal title feels far too distant. He asks to go back to grandfather, leaving the child worried about appearing too rude. A quick snap sounding accompanies his enthusiastic thumbs up as he confirms his desire for the title. A rhythmic tabak sounding follows his declaration that he shall call the young girl Seol now. Watching the growing bond, Mayran smiles warmly at the newfound peace within the estate's pavilion. The patriarch lifts Seol high into the air as they both laugh in a moment of joy. A rhythmic tweet sounding follows as birds fly past the peaceful morning garden of the pavilion. The young girl looks incredibly tired, her eyes heavy and unfocused as she wakes up. A sleepy blink sounding follows as Mayran enters and asks if she is finally awake. A soft hoo-hoo sounding follows as the maid laughs, telling the sleepy girl to rest more. A gentle rub sounding follows as Seol learns the patriarch was very pleased with her work. Mayran informs the child that someone is here to see her, prompting a surprised reaction. A sharp creak sounding marks the door opening as a man asks about her night's rest. A polite bow sounding follows as a man with glasses introduces himself as Namgung Suo. A low, silent shh sounding follows as the shy girl hides behind the maid's purple robes. A soft rustle sounding follows as Mayran encourages the child to greet the chief seneschal. Hiding most of her face, the child offers a very quiet, hesitant hello to the visitor. A sudden bright wah sounding follows as the visitor is overwhelmed by the child's extreme cuteness. A quick cum sounding marks his attempt to regain composure and deliver the patriarch's personal message. The child looks up in surprise at the news that the visitor came from her grandfather. A bright, joyful ha sounding follows the news that the patriarch finally slept soundly last night. The man explains the patriarch felt the medicine was effective because she made it with love. A quick snap sounding follows as the girl eagerly agrees to keep making medicine for him. A light ha-ha sounding follows as the man and maid laugh at her enthusiastic immediate response. The chief seneschal mentions bringing a special mortar and pestle just to assist with their work. A custom-made mortar and pestle is presented as a gift for Seol to use for medicine. A bright and joyful exclamation fills the air as someone expresses their sincere gratitude. Namdung Suo addresses Mayran, who responds by respectfully acknowledging the chief seneschal's call. He instructs the maid to ensure Seol doesn't overwork herself, and she confirms she will. Mayran wonders if the patriarch found the medicine effective, prompting a thoughtful hum from Suo. They recall a comical past where the patriarch stubbornly ran away from foul-smelling herbal medicine. Suo laughs as he notes the patriarch's sudden and complete change of heart regarding the herbs. It is clear that the supreme patriarch has become completely enamored with the sweet young lady. Suo reports that rumors are spreading about the patriarch coddling a child of unknown origin. They realize the clan elders will likely attempt to suppress the young girl's growing influence. Suo orders the maid to report any threats to the child's safety to him immediately. The chief seneschal informs Seol that he has one last gift to present to her. He presents a box from the patriarch, and Mayran offers to help the girl open it. The girl's eyes widen in silent awe as the lid of the box is finally lifted. A quick bright glint sounding accompanies the reveal of a beautiful shimmering bead and jewel bracelet. She recalls her lonely past where she owned nothing and was jealous of her sister's jewelry. Mayran admires the gift, identifying it as a popular jade bracelet from the Anhui province. After delivering his message, Suo takes his leave while the girl offers a polite thank you. A soft rhythmic tabak sounding follows the man's footsteps as he exits the ornate room. Mayran comments on how pretty the bracelet is and offers to put it on Seol's wrist. Suo reflects on how lovely the child is, wondering if daughters are why people want them. A rhythmic tabak sounding accompanies his walk as he thinks about the bracelet's hidden nature. The ornament is actually a sacred relic passed down through the clan containing a vitality stone. This legendary green treasure is said to cleanse a person's fatigue just by holding it. Its incredible healing power is revealed through a soft, ethereal glow emanating from the stone. Ancient legends say the stone can heal the body in a single night after intense training. The patriarch admits he lied about it being jade so she wouldn't refuse the precious gift. He finds it curious that such a rare martial artist's item was given to a child. The young girl's innocent and radiant smile continues to melt the hearts of everyone around her. Suo wonders what the Supreme Patriarch's ultimate goal is for the child's future education. A lingering thought suggests that he may actually intend to teach the girl martial arts. Beaming with happiness, the girl clutches a red book to her chest while flowers bloom around her. Suo interrupts the Patriarch's morning to report an early arrival from the family branch elders. He informs the Patriarch that elders from various family branches are currently waiting for an audience. A low, resonant, dumb sounding marks the moment the Patriarch sits peacefully with his granddaughter. He refuses to leave, claiming his breakfast meeting with Seol is his greatest daily joy. He is heartened to see her looking healthy, reflecting on how she once looked so frail. He feels she has finally opened her heart to him, even as she addresses him formally. When he questions her formal title, she quickly and nervously corrects herself to call him grandfather. A soft, silent nod, sounding follows as he hopes she will eventually open up to others.
He notes her overwhelming awkwardness around his rowdy grandsons who are eager to meet her.
The patriarch remains optimistic that time will eventually help her adjust to the energetic boys. He encourages her to eat a rare, ancient medicine to further improve her physical health. A sharp, shocking zap sounding follows her insistence on feeding herself without his help. She explains that being fed is embarrassing for a grown-up, leaving him feeling quite dejected. A sharp, bitter axe sounding marks his heartbreak as he mourns the loss of his joy. He tries to rationalize his feelings, telling himself that her independence is a positive sign. He tells Seal he must leave for business, and she bids him a cheerful farewell. A sharp, sudden creak sounding marks the door opening as Suo greets the emerging patriarch. The chief manager informs his master that it is time to meet the waiting elders. The patriarch's eyes glow with an intimidating power as he prepares to confront the clan elders. A rhythmic tabak sounding follows the patriarch's heavy footsteps as Suo wonders why he is so grumpy. A low, resonant dum sounding follows as the patriarch sits, his eyes glowing with an intimidating blue power. The family elders whisper among themselves, worried they chose a particularly bad day to visit the patriarch. A sharp, rhythmic tabak sounding follows as the patriarch glares, demanding absolute silence from the gathered clan leaders. A rhythmic tabak sounding follows as an elder with long bluish hair and a cane steps forward confidently. Namgu Muyang asks if the clan head is still away while the patriarch watches him with silent irritation. A quick tsk sounding follows as the patriarch notes Muyang's annoying habit of being the first to speak. A rhythmic tabak sounding follows as they discuss past clashes, noting that Muyang has always been a thorn. The elder stands before the seated patriarch, wearing a subtle, knowing smile that further irritates his superior. Muyang decides to get straight to the point, sensing the patriarch's obvious frustration with his prolonged silence. The elder reveals he has heard rumors about a young girl being brought into the family estate recently. A sharp tabak sounding follows as the patriarch explains he only took in a child with no home. Muyang suggests the clan is worried about a new family member, while the patriarch confirms their suspicions internally. The patriarch realizes the elders think he is senile enough to adopt an unknown child into the lineage. A heavy realization settles in as they fear her presence will disrupt the next generation's power struggle. The patriarch tells the group he has no plans to adopt her, briefly putting their worried minds at ease. Shocked silence follows his sudden declaration that he intends to take Seol as his personal disciple instead. The elders argue that neither a clan head nor patriarch has ever taken a non-blood relative as a disciple. A legendary tiger looms behind the patriarch as his status as the clan's strongest warrior is acknowledged. The elders protest that he refused to train their own children despite his immense talent in legendary martial arts. The patriarch challenges their narrow worldview, asking where exactly they draw the line between family and outsiders. He bluntly asserts that among everyone present, he's the only person who can claim to be a true Namgung. A sudden polite interruption follows as Suo enters the room, apologizing for the timing of his arrival. Suo presents a letter from the head of the family, requesting it be read before the gathered elders. The patriarch agrees to hear the letter from his son, whose intellect is said to rival legendary strategists. A soft rustle sounding follows as the letter is opened, beginning with a formal greeting to the father. The family head acknowledges his father's rights, but insists they cannot ignore the opinions of the clan elders. A sudden, tense silence follows the letter's proposal to verify the child's qualifications through a formal duel. The patriarch chuckles, impressed by his son's clever proposal designed to satisfy both sides of the heated argument. He realizes his son is betting on Xiao losing the duel, forcing the patriarch to step aside eventually. A sharp tsk sounding follows as the patriarch notes his son's assumption that a fair duel will end this. Wearing a confident smile, the patriarch reflects that his son has made a rare mistake in his calculations. Muyang mentions his own grandson, Jong-u, has made significant progress in his training lately. A quick debak sounding follows as the patriarch agrees to a duel between the two 8-year-old children. The two children stand on a training stage facing each other with wooden swords held in determined grips. The patriarch sets the terms, declaring he will take Seal as his disciple if she wins the duel. A worried expression crosses Seal's face as he warns she will receive nothing if Jong-u is the victor. The stern condition is reiterated, confirming that Seol will not inherit anything from the Namgung clan upon defeat. Returning to breakfast, the patriarch offers Seol a plate of food and asks for her honest opinion. Seol eats quietly, looking slightly overwhelmed by the weight of the patriarch's expectations in the upcoming duel. He explains that legendary herbs were used to restore her meridians, ensuring her body is now much healthier. A sharp pwak sounding follows as the patriarch clenches his fist, clarifying they won't start with internal energy. He suggests they begin with external martial arts, focusing entirely on tempering her body and refining her technique. Seol is surprised, explaining she had always heard internal energy was the most important part of martial arts. The patriarch explains that reaching the peak of external arts creates an indestructible diamond body like a monk's. Seol asks if she can truly achieve such a feat, and he admits it will take significant effort. A bright, pious sounding marks the moment Seal's eyes fill with determination as she accepts the new challenge. In her imagination, a small cat-like seal defeats two large bears while dreaming of having a diamond body. The patriarch smiles warmly, pleased to see that she truly has a sincere desire to learn his martial arts. He brings up the previous discussion with the elders and officially suggests she participate in a formal duel. The patriarch defines the duel's high stakes. Victory grants Seal discipleship, while defeat leaves her clanless. Muyang suggests scheduling the formal duel in 2 months to give the child ample training time. He insists the patriarch cannot personally train Seol, ensuring the duel truly tests her innate worthiness. The patriarch agrees to delegate her training but demands that no one contests the eventual result. He decides to withhold news of the duel to avoid burdening the young girl's innocent heart. He informs a startled Seol that he won't be the one teaching her martial arts personally. He reassures her by promising a highly elite instructor who trains the clan's most promising children. He names Captain Namgang Ugyil as her new master, leaving the young girl looking quite curious. A sudden sharp hop sounding accompanies a powerful training shout within the quiet morning hall. Rhythmic, heavy pak-pak soundings mark each blow as she practices her strikes with intense focus. Gasping for breath after the 5th strike, she hears her instructor mock her lack of stamina. She insists she can continue, but her master warns her weakness will make training impossible. A sudden, terrifying "ah" sounding follows the reveal of a massive glowing wolf prepared to devour her. A quick, startled "wah" sounding marks the moment she bolts upright in bed, drenched in sweat. Relieved to find it was a nightmare, she's greeted by a maid's gentle morning inquiry. She admits her heart is racing with intense anxiety about meeting her new martial arts instructor. She tries to calm herself by recalling her grandfather's high praise for her soon-to-be teacher. Despite his reassurances, she confesses her deep fear of meeting someone as intimidating as a beastkin. A soft, anxious shh sounding follows her decision to arrive at the training grounds much earlier. The morning sun bathes the serene training courtyard in light as the scene shifts to the pavilion. A soft, sudden creak sounding marks the door opening as she peeks into the empty training hall. A sharp, whistling boom sounding catches her attention as she spots movement within the quiet courtyard. She spots a boy her age practicing sword forms and wonders if he is the captain. She watches in awe, noting that his movements are incredibly beautiful despite his young age. A rhythmic boom sounding follows his swift blade as he moves with expert flowing precision. Light glints off his practice weapon as he focuses entirely on the rhythm of his technique. She observes that his form is nearly perfect, requiring only a small amount of extra refinement. A bright, sudden hua sounding marks a burst of energy as his technique reaches a new level. He leaps high into the air, startling the girl as he executes a powerful mid-air strike. He suddenly stops mid-motion, leaving the girl confused as he was so close to finishing. The sharp, sudden pat sounding follows as he turns his gaze toward her, demanding her identity. She bows deeply in apology, admitting she didn't mean to intrude on his private practice session. Blushing with embarrassment, she confesses she was simply captivated by the beauty of his impressive swordsmanship. The silver-haired boy stares at her with a cool, appraisal-filled gaze as she remains bowed in respect. He steps closer to the stammering girl, his intense focus making her feel extremely flustered and nervous. A soft, dizzying flump sounding follows as her heart races, overwhelmed by how close he is standing. He asks for clarification on her earlier comment regarding techniques reserved strictly for direct family descendants. She realizes he is around her age and begins to piece together his likely noble identity. She tentatively asks if he is Namgung Baek, the eldest grandson of her beloved grandfather. A system notification officially introduces the silver-haired boy as Namgung Baek, the family's eldest grandson. He dismissively refers to her as a little brat, causing her to react with shock and offense. She tries to introduce herself properly, eager to establish a polite connection with her new peer. He is baffled when she addresses him as senior brother, questioning where she learned such terminology. She explains that disciples sharing a master should address one another as senior brother and junior sister. A soft, nervous tsk sounding follows as she justifies her address based on their upcoming joint training. He coldly clarifies that formal rites are for masters, tellingly ordering her to forget the whole idea. He sighs in frustration, wondering why he's wasting breath explaining complex etiquette to an ignorant child. She calls out to stop him, desperate to offer a final sincere apology for being so rude. A low, rhythmic tabak sounding marks the arrival of a man who notes her early arrival. Namgung Ugyil formally introduces himself as the captain of the Blue Sky Unit and their instructor. Instructor Ugyil asks Seal who she was just talking to, having heard voices nearby. Looking at the quiet courtyard, Seal wonders if calling him senior brother is the right choice. Standing alone on the stairs, she wonders why the silver-haired boy left without saying anything. She apologetically tells her instructor she was just talking to herself to calm her racing nerves. A look of intense focus crosses her face as she determinedly agrees to begin their training. She vows to do her absolute best, unaware of the complex path that lies ahead. A soft clinking tisk sounding follows as the patriarch enjoys a quiet cup of morning tea. Seol declares she'll eat 3 bowls of rice today to ensure she has enough strength. A soft, quick shh sounding follows as a warm hand reaches out toward the weary child. The patriarch smiles gently at the girl who fell asleep before she could finish her meal. A soft, sudden creak sounding marks the door opening as the patriarch calls for a maid. He instructs the maid, Mayran, to ensure Seal wears her protective bracelet every single night. A large, calloused hand strokes the sleeping girl's head as she drifts into a deep slumber. The patriarch notes the arrival of a guest as Ugyo waits patiently in the dimly lit hall. A sudden, rhythmic tabak sounding marks the captain's deep bow as he formally greets the patriarch. The patriarch asks for a detailed report on how Seol handled her very first day of training. Looking deeply troubled, Wi-gyul asks the patriarch to rescind the order to instruct the young girl. Narration identifies Ugil as the elite squad leader known as the 1,000-pound sword sage. The patriarch is surprised, noting that his usually steadfast captain has never questioned his orders before. Wi-gyul bluntly asserts that Seol possesses absolutely no innate talent or affinity for the martial arts. He explains that her physical strength is so lacking she cannot even properly hold a sword. A heavy, weary ha sounding follows his warning that forced training will only bring her pain. The patriarch challenges him, asking if he ever stopped to ask the girl what she truly wants. Wi-gyul admits he never asked, and the patriarch tells him to speak with her before deciding. A subtle, knowing smile plays on the patriarch's lips as he considers the girl's true potential. He orders Ugil to teach her the forms of the legendary Great Azure Sky Sword technique. Ugil is stunned, arguing that she hasn't even mastered the most basic foundations of the sword. The patriarch silences his protests, firmly instructing the captain to trust his vision and follow him. The captain clenches his jaw in silence, reluctantly accepting the burden of this impossible new task. Reflecting on his deep loyalty, Wi-gyul realizes the patriarch must have a hidden reason for this. He watches Seol standing small in the vast hall, wondering what the patriarch sees in her. He worries that placing a child without internal energy into a duel is a cruel mistake. A sudden sharp eek sounding marks Seol's shock as something catches her completely off guard. She spots two young boys peeking over a balcony, their eyes wide with intense curiosity. She apologizes for her jumpiness, admitting she briefly mistook the peering children for wandering ghosts. A soft, disappointed sounding follows as the boys are ordered to leave their new friend. Wi-gyul notes how easily she startles, doubting that she possesses the required spirit of a warrior. He decides the best course of action is to make her quit the training through exhaustion. He informs a determined Seal that their real training begins today, and it will be brutal. He offers her a way out, promising she can quit at any time if it's too difficult. Her small body trembles as she struggles to carry massive logs across the training grounds. A sudden heavy sounding follows as she fruitlessly tries to push a massive boulder. A rhythmic, pained huff sounding follows as she collapses onto the ground in total exhaustion. Wi-gyul is certain she will quit by morning, yet the scene shifts toward the coming day. A simple text panel marks the passage of time as the grueling training sessions continue. To the captain's absolute shock, Seal arrives at the training grounds on time the next morning. He is baffled by her persistence, noting that even hardened soldiers would have broken by now. Realizing her will is stronger than her body, he decides to fundamentally change his training method. A quick, rhythmic tock sounding follows as he tosses several small balls to test her. A sudden whistling boom sounding accompanies the reveal of a massive wooden pillar in the courtyard. Seol struggles to climb a pillar while Ugil admits he withheld gloves to toughen her. Wi-gyul explains she must pass this test before learning any sword techniques, and Seol determinedly agrees. A soft, rhythmic hup sounding follows as Seol grips the rope and begins her arduous ascent. A sharp, sudden ack sounding marks the moment Seol slips and tumbles back to the floor. Clasping her sore hands, a soft, pained ouch sounding follows as Seol tries to ignore the sting. She stares silently at her raw, reddened palms, realizing the true difficulty of her master's challenge. Shaking off the pain, she stands back up with a look of renewed, unwavering determination. She grit her teeth, insisting she can do this while hauling her small body upward again. A sudden startling sounding follows as she loses her grip and falls for a second time. A heavy rhythmic ow sounding marks her impact as she hits the wooden training platform again. Wi-gyul watches from the shadows, finding it increasingly difficult to witness the young girl's painful struggle. The setting sun paints the sky in orange hues, signaling the end of a long training day. Wi-gyul orders her to stop for the night, but Seal desperately insists on continuing her practice. She turns back to the pillar, her small hands trembling as she prepares for another attempt. Wi-gyul remains silent, his expression unreadable as he watches his student's relentless display of willpower. He grants her a little more time, secretly hoping she will soon give up this impossible task. He believes it's better she stops now before her expectations lead to even greater disappointment later. A promotional notification appears offering readers access to more chapters of the series on their website. The lone pillar stands tall in the center of the quiet courtyard under the fading evening light. Night falls over the grand estate, casting long, peaceful shadows across the traditional palace architecture. Walking through the gardens at night, Wi-gyul assumes that Seol has finally retired to her quarters. A soft rhythmic creak sounding marks the door opening as Wi-gyul goes to greet the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder looks up from his seat, acknowledging Uigil's late-night visit with a calm gaze. Uigil expresses concern over Seol's overexertion, but the Elder is surprised to hear she hasn't returned. A look of dawning realization crosses Uigil's face as he realizes Seal never actually left the grounds. The Grand Elder chuckles softly, promising to watch over the girl and telling the captain not to worry. He pauses, asking Udil if he has truly forgotten the lesson he was supposed to learn today. He reminds the captain that a warrior's heart and spirit are far more important than physical talent. A soft, quick shh sounding follows as Uigil bows and is dismissed to his own room. Walking back, Uigil remains certain that the grueling session will keep the girl away the next morning. A soft, sudden creak sounding marks the door opening as Uigil returns to the training hall. He is initially relieved to find the courtyard empty, assuming the girl has finally chosen to quit. He muses that she lasted longer than he expected, but a sudden voice catches him off guard. A sharp, startled ah sounding follows as Uigil looks up to see Seol atop the high pillar. He cries out in shock, barely believing his eyes as he sees her sitting high above him. The tiny girl looks down from her precarious perch as her master stands frozen in absolute disbelief. He asks if she stayed there all night, and she sheepishly explains she lost track of time. She smiles brightly, admitting she stayed to watch the sunrise after finally reaching the top of the pillar. A sudden, sharp wait sounding follows as Seol loses her balance while trying to stand up. A quick whistling boom sounding marks her rapid descent as she falls from the towering wooden pillar. Uigil leaps forward with expert speed, catching the exhausted girl safely in his strong arms. She apologizes for her clumsiness, explaining that her physical strength simply gave out at the last moment. She realizes she left the required feather at the top and insists she must climb back up. Uigil stares at her in stunned silence, overwhelmed by her sheer stubbornness and incredible mental fortitude. He asks what she intends to do next, and she groans at the thought of another climb. Despite her exhaustion, her eyes remain focused and clear as she considers her future in the martial arts. Uigil looks down at the small child, seeing a spark of true warrior spirit for the first time. He kneels down and asks Seol if she truly sincerely wishes to pursue the path of training. She admits the real reason is a secret between her and her grandfather, but offers another goal. Seol declares her desire to achieve diamond imperviousness, leaving her master completely baffled and confused. Uigil is surprised by the girl's answer, wondering why she trains here instead of Shaolin for such a goal. He asks her future plans, and Seol explains that mastering external arts will make her incredibly strong. A serene white flower blooms as Uigil watches the small girl lost in his own thoughts. Seol stares at her hand, full of hope for the strength she might one day achieve. She asks if someone will need her skills, leaving her master to consider her humble aspirations. Uigil kneels, clarifying if she means becoming an escort, as she considers various ways to be useful. He explains that wanderers are traveling warriors, and Seol envisions herself working for a future employer. Delight washes over Seol as she realizes how many paths her new training might actually open. She smiles brightly, admitting she must prepare for the day she eventually leaves the clan's home. Uigil feels a pang of guilt, realizing he underestimated the depth and maturity of the girl's heart. Looking at her small form, he realizes her resolve is as heavy and firm as any adult's. A soft, quick swish sounding follows as Uigil addresses his young lady, and she dutifully answers. He formally announces that their true instruction in the legendary Great Azure Sky sword art begins tomorrow. Seol is wide-eyed with shock, barely able to believe she will learn the clan's secret techniques. Uigil offers a rare, gentle smile, promising to protect her place within the clan until she grows. A soft, rhythmic talk sounding follows as he promises to carve her a custom-sized wooden training sword. Overcome with joy, Seol suddenly lunges forward to give her surprise master a tight, grateful hug. Uigil laughs heartily, telling her that such a small gesture doesn't deserve the title of a benefactor. He warns that debts of gratitude bring trouble, as a silver-haired young man watches them from afar. The silver-haired man watches the scene with a cold, distant gaze, his thoughts remaining entirely hidden. He wonders what could possibly drive a child to push herself so far in her martial training. Uigil kneels to check Seol's hands, unaware that they are being observed by the quiet passerby. The silver-haired man remains unconvinced by her reasons, noting she has no real need for survival skills. He spots the patriarch watching from a high branch, realizing Seol already has lifelong protection. A soft, pained tsk sounding follows as the patriarch wishes the girl wasn't in such a rush. A rhythmic, heavy tbak sounding marks the silver-haired man turning away as the patriarch calls out. The patriarch tells him to stay, teasing him about his silence and a recent meeting with a matchmaker. He mentions the daughter of Deyoung Manor, suggesting the young man should consider the marriage proposal. A sharp, sudden clock sounding follows as the silver-haired man clenches his fist in silent, bitter frustration. The patriarch notes the girl's interest, but the young man coldly dismisses the point of such talk. A heavy, rhythmic shh sounding follows as he stares at the ground, his expression darkening with despair. He snaps that he's a groom who won't even live long enough to see a wedding day. He turns his back on the patriarch, walking away into the gardens without another single word. Text narration explains that the young man, Baek, wasn't always so cold and detached from others. The patriarch stands alone in the vast courtyard, watching the retreating figure of his troubled kin. Narration recalls a time when Baek was as affectionate as others before his spirit was seemingly broken. Baek briefly asks after the patriarch's health, though the old man turns the question back toward him. The patriarch invites him to breakfast tomorrow, hoping to mend the distance between them through simple company.
A soft rhythmic tbak sounding follows as Bake walks away, offering only a curt farewell in return.
A sudden heavy shh sounding follows as the patriarch stands alone, his face etched with deep sorrow.
A soft, weary hoo sounding follows as the elder sighs, weighed down by the burdens of his family. A sudden sharp talk sounding echoes through the peaceful training hall as a new session begins. Seal strikes a wooden dummy with her sword until Ugil calls out that she has done enough. He orders her to rest, and Seal chirps a happy response, clearly enjoying her master's new instruction. A quick whistling swish sounding follows as Seal carefully sets her new wooden sword down by the dummy.
Ugil tells her she needn't be so precious with a simple tool, but Seal remains deeply protective.
A sudden sharp hup sounding follows as she insists on treasuring the gift her master personally carved. A soft, awkward cough sounding follows as a flustered Uijol promises to make another if it breaks. A soft, quick swish sounding follows as Seal beams with joy, her gratitude clearly touching her master. A rhythmic, thirsty gulp sounding follows as Ciel drinks, her trembling hands revealing her true physical limits. Narrative transition indicates a shift as Yu-Gi-Oh reflects on Ciel's surprising progress in the training hall. Uigil notes that Ciel's ability to learn and adapt is far superior to his initial expectations. Ciel asks if her posture was strange, but Yu-Gil assures her it was quite the opposite. Ciel proudly claims she is now as good as the senior disciple Namgun Baek. Uigil looks flustered as the young girl beams with a newfound sense of martial confidence. Ugil explains that they do not use the term senior disciple within the Namgang clan. Ciel asks what to call the young master, and Uigil suggests Oraboni is more appropriate. Ciel blushes at the suggestion, thinking that such an affectionate title feels incredibly ticklish to say. She wonders if someone with such incredible martial prowess could truly be considered her older brother. Ciel sits alone, wishing to see a sword path again despite not meeting him recently. She stares into the distance, wondering if the young master has stopped his training these days. A squad member cries out in surprise, prompting Ugyul to ask if the rowdy young masters have returned. Ugyul confronts a group of men watching from above, reminding them this is a private area. Terrified by the staring men, Ciel mistakes them for goblins while Ugyul clarifies their true identity. Ugyul orders the Changchan squad to greet the young lady after they startled her with their presence. The squad members approach, explaining they simply wanted to catch a glimpse of the famous young lady. One of the men tells Ciel that she has already become a celebrity among the clan's warriors. He explains that the medical hall staff has been gushing about how cute she is lately. They mention that even their captain was so taken with her that he carved her a sword. The warriors gossip among themselves, wondering if she is actually an incredibly cute baby fox in disguise. They admit their curiosity drove them to visit the training hall just to see her for themselves. Ciel is deeply touched, realizing her master spent all night personally crafting her wooden training sword. Uigil snaps that their training must be too easy while they tease him for being visibly embarrassed. A sharp sudden what sounding follows as Uigil orders the squad to run 500 laps. Uigil ends the session for Ciel, citing an urgent matter as the squad begs her for help. A sudden sharp sounding follows as Uigil doubles their punishment for trying to involve her. Seeing the captain's terrifying discipline, Ciel decides it is best to make a quick run for it. Ciel flees the training grounds while the desperate squad cries out for her not to abandon them. Resting in a quiet garden, Ciel catches her breath and lets out a long, weary sigh. She reflects on her master's behavior, realizing for the first time that he can be quite scary. Ciel ranks her fears, placing the rowdy twins, Jiak and Hook, at the absolute top of the list. She recalls her grandfather telling her not to be afraid of them, though she remains unconvinced. Their sudden approach always makes her nervous, reminding her of the cruel twins at the Mayo estate. A sudden sharp clang sounding follows as a memory of a broken bowl from her past resurfaces. She remembers being tricked into drinking rotten weed water by children who called her a fool. The memory of their mocking laughter leaves Ciel feeling a cold shiver of dread in her heart. Ciel tries to shake the memory, hoping that Namgong Joke and Hook are different from those children. The two brown-haired boys peek from behind a pillar, watching Ciel with wide, curious eyes. A soft, rhythmic swish sounding follows as the twins find her and ask if she will play. Ciel trembles with fear, wondering if the twins are actually planning to bully her once again. She imagines them as hungry dogs looking at her like she is a simple piece of meat. Terrified, she fears that if they discover her feline nature, she will surely become their next snack. Ciel tries to retreat to her room, but the boys insist they will play whatever she likes. They suggest digging for roots or chewing on their grandfather's shoes, leaving Ciel completely stunned and confused. A moment of awkward silence follows as the three children stand together in the quiet courtyard. One boy suggests fetching a stick before remembering she is a cat, leaving Ciel feeling utterly unimpressed. A look of sudden dawning realization crosses Ciel's face as a specific detail catches her attention. Ciel suddenly grabs the boy's clothes, frantically demanding that they wait a minute for an explanation. Ciel's eyes widen in absolute panic as she wonders how they could possibly know her secret identity. Ciel remains frozen in shock while the boys look on with confusion at her sudden frantic reaction. Ciel is consumed by absolute panic, convinced the boys have discovered her secret feline identity. A hand reaches out towards Ciel, who flinches and contemplates a desperate feline transformation to escape. A sudden, rhythmic choke sounding follows as the boy offers a handmade mouse toy to Seal. Seal stares blankly at the unexpected gift, her confusion mounting as she asks what it is. The boys reveal they heard cats love such toys, hoping they can finally play together now.
One twin explains they spent 3 days begging a maid to make the secret cat toy.
Seal timidly asks if they hate her now that her beastkin secret is fully out. A sudden sharp ack sounding follows as her ears pop out, with the boys revealing they've always known. The younger boy beams, expressing his genuine happiness at finally having a big sister to play with. Seal gasps as the boy points out her name is personally engraved on the thoughtful gift. A soft rhythmic kamjul sounding follows as Seal worries her lack of education will bring them shame.
A soft, quick swish sounding follows as Seal looks down at her gift with a stunned expression.
The boy notes the snowflake symbol is there, so everyone knows the unique gift belongs to her.
One twin admits he struggles with writing too, while the other proudly insists he memorized her name.
A soft rhythmic hook sounding follows as Seal offers her sincere thanks to the 2 young masters.
The 2 boys smile warmly at their new friend, pleased that their secret gift was accepted.
One twin insists she call them brother and speak casually, while Joa begs for the same treatment. A soft, rhythmic jumsum sounding follows as Seol asks if they would accept a gift from her. A soft, quick swish sounding follows as she explains everything she owns was provided by the clam. Seol recalls how her silk hair tie was made from scrap fabric traded for her original clothes. A soft, quick swish sounding follows as she explains the ribbon is her only truly personal possession.
Seol carefully ties the blue ribbon onto the older boy's waist, surprising him with her sudden gesture. The boy loves the gift, while the younger twin immediately begs for a matching ribbon of his own. Seol looks over the younger twin, trying to decide exactly where to place a special new gift. A sudden sharp pyong sounding follows as she ties a ribbon in his hair, calling him a popey.
A soft, rhythmic buck sounding follows as the older twin likes being able to see Jock's eyes.
A soft, rhythmic whoo sounding follows as Seol realizes all her previous fears were completely for nothing.
Seol watches the boys play, deeply moved by the kindness shown by her new siblings in the clan.
She wonders if the eldest brother, Bake, is also a good person despite his cold, distant nature. One twin calls out to their older brother, Bake, as the silver-haired young man appears in the distance.
A soft, rhythmic shh sounding follows as Seol realizes she has unexpectedly run into Bake once again. A soft, rhythmic jock sounding follows as a frustrated Bake mentions he was looking for a quiet spot. A soft, rhythmic ulkyak sounding follows as the twins defend their playtime, telling Bake he should be training. A soft, rhythmic kumtul sounding follows as Bake asks the rowdy boys why they aren't training themselves.
A soft, rhythmic umjil sounding follows as Seol addresses Bake as brother at her master's earlier suggestion. Bake stares at Seol with a cold, unreadable gaze, leaving her feeling incredibly small and deeply uncomfortable.
The younger twin notices the tense atmosphere and asks his older brother if something is currently wrong.
A sudden, sharp wheek sounding follows as Bake snaps that he sees no point in learning martial arts. A rhythmic heavy to back sounding follows as Bake turns his back and walks away without another word.
Seol watches him leave, wondering if she accidentally angered him since he refused to even answer her.
A soft, sudden kumjak sounding follows as the twins explain Bake's personality changed because of an illness. They reveal Bake was poisoned at age 8 and isn't expected to live past 20 years of age. Jack tells her not to worry because their mother leads the medical hall and has incredible skills.
Seol realizes the boy is only calm because he truly believes his mother can save their brother.
Seol reflects that Bake's expression suggests he has already given up hope on ever finding a cure. One of the twins brings up an old saying, prompting Seol to look back at him with curiosity. The younger twin looks up with a playful expression, asking if that specific saying is actually true. A sudden, heavy kung sounding follows as the older twin claims the youngest children are usually crybabies. Juk whines to Seol about the teasing, while the older twin points out his behavior proves it. A soft, sudden puhak sounding follows as Seol laughs and pulls the sobbing Juk into a hug. Juk complains about being laughed at while Seol offers a sincere apology for her amusement. Seol reflects on how chasing the boys finally let her pent-up cat instincts run wild.
A soft rhythmic conjul sounding follows as Seol's fingers twitch with a sudden restless energy.
Seol realizes her claws are itchy before Emmanuel explains cat beasts can need monthly grooming. Seol explains she hasn't groomed since hiding her form, fearing long claws will hurt her paws. A soft, quick sock sounding follows as Seol hides under her covers to transform privately. A sudden, sharp pyong sounding follows as Seol transforms into a tiny white kitten. A soft, quick talk sounding follows as Seol decides to use a bedpost for scratching. A soft, sudden hum chip sounding follows as Seol freezes in shock at a sudden discovery. A soft, sudden byonjuk sounding follows as Seol spots a small mouse watching from above. Seol hisses in surprise while a tiny mouse shrieks in terror at her sudden presence. The tiny mouse cries out in absolute panic upon realizing a predator is nearby.
A soft, quick talk sounding follows as Seo Handrol the mouse is introduced as no ordinary mouse.
Haniol was destined to die in a cat's jaws but survived by pure heavenly luck. Since that day, the mouse has suffered from a fear of cats unlike any other. The traumatized mouse trembles, forever scarred by the near-death experience he suffered as a pup. Haniol fled through the world, desperate to escape the shadows of cats chasing him.
He settled in the Namgung estate, believing it to be a sanctuary far from felines. A sudden sharp tadak sounding follows as Haniel easily dodges the brooms of estate maids. Haniel dismisses the threats of the clan and maids, focusing only on his family's survival. He looked forward to a happy future until Seol's arrival ruined his cat-free paradise. The mouse shares a tender moment with his mate, dreaming of their future together. His hopes for a quiet life are shattered by the sudden appearance of a predator. A soft, rhythmic bellow sounding follows as Haniel realizes a cat is standing directly before him. A soft, rhythmic quichong sounding follows as Haniel faints, convinced his life ends today. He realizes Seol is a cat beastkin, regretting that plentiful food made him lower his guard. A soft, rhythmic teal sock sounding follows as Haniel apologizes to his family for leaving them behind. The mouse remains frozen in silence as he waits for the cat to finish him. A soft, rhythmic kirong sounding follows as Haniel looks up in confusion at the cat. Seol offers him a rice cake and kindly asks if the startled mouse is actually doing all right. The mouse wonders why a noble cat would share food after he was caught stealing it. A soft, sudden hue sounding follows as Seol recalls her grandfather's lessons on helping the weak. Seol apologizes for the scare while the mouse marvels at receiving kindness from a cat predator. A soft, sudden jidik sounding follows as Seo Haniel expresses how deeply moved he feels. Haniel offers thanks for being spared, but Seol simply claims she only did as taught. A soft, sudden chak sounding follows as Haniel pledges that his entire family shall serve her. Seol reacts with pure bewilderment at the mouse's sudden and intense vow of eternal loyalty. Seol questions his vow of service while the mouse insists on repaying her incredible grace. The emotional mouse looks up at Seol, desperate to prove his sincerity and devotion. Seol asks the mouse if there is anything specific that he wishes to know from her. The scene shifts to the next morning as sunlight bathes the Grand Namgung clan estate. A maid observes many high-ranking people gathering near the training grounds for today's match. Seol realizes the direct line training grounds were open for an important sparring match today. Weegyeol tells her to warm up while he leaves, making Seol nervous about her first match. Seol worries if her master received an urgent message and will return before the match starts. Jongwoo insults the training grounds before identifying himself and asking Seol for her own name. Jongwoo mocks Seol's appearance while she wonders if the young master already knows her. Jongwoo identifies as the grandson of Elder Namgung Muyang after Seol asks who he is. A sudden, sharp ook sounding follows as Jongwoo identifies himself as Seol's opponent for the match. Jongwoo demands she remember his name while Seol notes his age and likely high skill level. Seol looks down pensively, sensing a strange shift in the atmosphere as the match nears. A colorful title banner introduces the various individuals who now play roles in Seol's life. Recalling the formidable figure she has encountered, Seol finds she is no longer intimidated by others. Seol looks on thoughtfully as she compares Jongwoo's presence to her older brother Baek. Seol pities Jongwoo for living in Baek's shadow while he reacts with anger to her look. Jongwoo shouts that a commoner like Seol shouldn't use the Direct Line's training grounds. The gray-haired boy scowls at Seol, visibly annoyed by her calm and silent reaction. A sudden sharp whiz sounding follows as a black shoe is kicked directly towards Seol. A soft quick talk sounding follows as Jongwoo claims his shoe slipped off accidentally. Jongwoo demands Seol pick up the shoe, intending to treat her like a lowly servant before others. Jongwoo insists she must serve him since she has received the grace of the Namgung clan. Seol reflects that this young master is fundamentally different from the other kind people she knows. Seol acknowledges she has received favor from the clan and moves to retrieve the fallen footwear. As Seol moves toward the shoe, Jongwoo watches her with a satisfied, smug expression. A single powerful word commands the children to stop, echoing through the wide-open training grounds. A sudden, sharp tack sounding follows as a hand grabs the shoe before Seol can touch it. Silver-haired Baek stands over the scene, shocking both Seol and the terrified, barefoot young master Jongwoo. Seol gazes up at her brother's majestic and cold presence as he takes control of the situation. Baek stares down with a silent, frozen gaze that makes the atmosphere feel incredibly heavy and tense. Baek tells the boy not to move, his voice sounding with a terrifying and absolute authority. A sudden, sharp quack sounding follows as Baek's grip begins to destroy the leather shoe. Baek repeats the boy's words about receiving grace, leaving Jongwoo trembling and unable to answer. Baek mentions Jongwoo's grandfather also received grace, referring to the elder Namgung Muyang. Seol is surprised to learn that an elder of the prestigious clan shares a similar origin. Narrated panels reveal Elder Muyang originally came from the slums before being adopted into the clan. The story of the elder's hard-earned success and lucky adoption is briefly recounted through distant memories. Baek asks why someone who received such grace would be so harsh to a child like Seol. Baek hands the crushed shoe back, noting his words apply to the arrogant grandson as well. Baek warns a boy never to disrespect a guest of the Namgung clan ever again. Jongwoo seethes in silence, blaming his grandfather's status for the humiliation he is currently suffering. Jongwoo flees the scene in a humiliated rage while Seol calls out after the departing boy. Seol feels a heavy guilt for unintentionally learning a sensitive secret about the high-ranking elder. Seol calls out to her silver-haired brother asking if he is leaving the area now. Seol thanks him, but Baek insists his actions were only to protect the clan's honor. Despite his distant and cold attitude, Seol remains sincerely grateful for his intervention on her behalf. A sudden sharp swish sounding follows as Seol asks if he came to watch her duel.
Baek walks away into the distance without giving the young girl a single word or look.
A soft, sudden jong sounding follows as Seol wonders why a good person acts so cold. She wonders if his illness causes his behavior before someone shouts for Jongwoo nearby.
Elder Moo Young and his son approach the stairs to check on the visibly upset boy.
A soft, sudden puk sounding follows as the elder asks if Baek said something cruel earlier. Moo Young advises his grandson to clear his mind and focus on the important duel ahead. Moo Young tells the boy to stand tall and proud as a child of their clan. Jongwoo shouts that his grandfather isn't a real Namgung, shocking everyone with his sudden disrespect. Moo Young and his son look on in shock as the boy turns his anger toward them. Jongwoo shouts that he was humiliated because his grandfather was just a lucky kid from the streets. A sudden sharp whiz sounding follows as Jongwoo vows to never see them again after today. Moo Young stops his son from chasing the boy, choosing to leave the upset child alone for now.
A decorative title card marks the transition as the scene shifts back toward the arena.
The announcer shouts to the crowd as the official duel is finally declared to begin.
Namgung Jongwoo prepares for the match, announcing his lineage as the grandson of Namgung Moo Young. Seol observes her opponent's lingering anger while Jongwoo dismisses her as nothing special to him.
A sudden loud cheer erupts from the crowd, encouraging Jongwoo to do his very best.
High-ranking family members cheer for the boy, telling him to avoid injury and use his training. Seol watches the spectacle from below, marveling at the large family support system Jongwoo possesses.
A soft, rhythmic juk sounding follows as Seol wistfully reflects on how nice such family support must feel. She realizes that true support matters more than bloodlines, watching Jongwoo prepare his wooden sword. Seol looks down sadly, feeling the weight of her loneliness as Jongwoo's opponent is announced. A sudden sharp Jeorong sounding follows as voices scream out Seol's name with overwhelming enthusiasm. Seol is shocked to see her master black brother and Jiok waving flags to support her. She spots Marin among the group, who is shouting loudly for Seol to do her best. A sudden sharp ooh-ah sounding follows as the Azure Heaven Squad and Medical Hall shout encouragement.
Seol feels immense gratitude but wonders if such a massive display is necessary for a friendly duel. Encouraged by the warmth, Seol beams with a bright smile and resolves to do her absolute best. A soft rhythmic hue-hue sounding follows as Elder Moo Young smiles down from the scene from above.
A soft rhythmic byokum sounding follows as the elder silently signals a specific piece of advice.
Seol looks up in confusion, trying to recall the elder's words about waiting for an opening. She remembers the instruction to put her palms together and provide a light push when needed. A sudden sharp talk sounding follows as the official commands everyone to quiet down for the start.
The announcer declares the start of the match as the two children face off in the arena. A sudden sharp talk sounding follows as Jongwoo lunges forward with the command to commence.
A sudden sharp talk sounding follows as their wooden swords clash violently in the center of the arena. Both children struggle for dominance in a blade lock, with Jongwoo grunting under the physical pressure. A sudden sharp gasp sounding follows as Seol narrowly dodges a powerful horizontal swing from Jongwoo. Spectators note that Jongwoo is quite skilled, while Seol seems to be barely dodging his attacks. A soft rhythmic yunong sounding follows as Uigil reassures a worried Jug that Seol will be fine. A sudden sharp buong sounding follows as Jongwoo grows frustrated that Seol continues to dodge effortlessly. Jongwoo is bewildered, wondering how the girl is able to avoid every single one of his strikes. Watching her movements, the black-haired boy notes she moves like a flying squirrel before questioning the master. Uigil reveals he only taught Seol the same sword art Jongwoo is using to facilitate her training. Moo Young explains that since she understands the paths of the strikes, dodging them is very easy. Uigil worries about Seol's lack of offensive training, asking the patriarch if she'll be alright. A sudden sharp kumjak sounding follows as the spectators realize Seol has no way to strike back. They argue she cannot win by dodging forever, but Moo Young insists he has a secret plan. A sudden sharp talk sounding follows as Moo Young reminds them he already gave Seol some advice. A sudden sharp weary rake sounding follows as Jongwoo successfully disarms Seol, sending her sword spinning away. The crowd gasps as Seol falls to the ground, appearing to be in serious trouble against Jongwoo. Jongwoo stands over the fallen girl, arrogantly declaring that her days of fooling around are finally over. A sudden sharp hwaak sounding follows as Jongwoo declares his victory while raising his wooden sword. Seol remembers the elder's words about an opening as Jongwoo prepares his final arrogant overhead strike. She focuses on the instruction to put her palms together and deliver a light, concentrated push. A sudden sharp jock sounding follows as Seol brings her palms together while calling out to Muyel. A sudden sharp weak sounding follows as Seol lunges forward, aiming her palms directly at Jongwoo's chest. A sudden sharp byeonjak sounding follows as a brilliant, blinding light erupts from Seol's pressed palms. Jongwoo is frozen in shock as the mysterious and powerful technique connects with his torso mid-swing. A sudden sharp kwang sounding follows as a massive explosion of energy blasts Jongwoo backward. A sudden sharp udang-tang sounding follows as the elders watch the incredible display of power in silence. Weigil asks if that was the Heavenly Thunder Palm, a high-level technique Seol shouldn't know. A sudden sharp sock sounding follows as Muyang proudly explains that Seol figured the technique out alone. Weigil is stunned by her natural talent while the patriarch notes she can only use it once. Weigil notes this isn't the place for such a discussion as too many years are Rao. Accepting the elder's concern, the master agrees to wait until they are in a more private setting.
Mu Young reflects on the young lady's unexpected victory while she looks down, lost in her thoughts. A close-up shows a hand gripping a wooden sword tightly, symbolizing the end of the duel.
A sudden, sharp thud sounding follows as Jongwoo groans in pain, clutching his chest in defeat.
Jongwoo looks up in shock as a wooden sword is held firmly against his throat.
The announcer's voice echoes through the grounds, officially declaring that the match is finally over.
Jongwoo trembles with frustration and shame, barely able to speak after his sudden and unexpected loss.
A sudden sharp gasp sounding follows as the announcer looks up, startled by an authoritative voice. Mu Young commands the announcer to declare the result of the duel immediately from the balcony above. Seal stands firmly in the arena, her gaze steady as she accepts the reality of her victory.
The announcer declares that Seol has earned the right to become the Grand Patriarch's disciple.
Spectators whisper excitedly about the Patriarch finally taking a disciple after such a long time. Seol is overwhelmed by shock, realizing the immense stakes of the duel only after winning. She recalls her initial request to learn martial arts from her grandfather before her formal training. Seol reflects on her past belief that her request to train with her grandfather had been accepted. She explains her past assumption that her current master was only a temporary teacher.
A flashback shows Ugiol holding a younger Seol, highlighting their long history as student and teacher.
Seol is struck by terror, wondering what her fate would have been if she lost the match. A sudden, rhythmic patter sounding follows as Mu Young calls for Seol while others watch Jungwoo leave.
Mu Young picks up the young girl and praises her warmly for her excellent performance today.
Seol stares blankly, still unable to grasp the magnitude of the prestigious reward she has received.
She wonders why nobody bothered to inform her about the special prize before the duel began.
A crowd of supporters cheers loudly, calling the young lady magnificent and her moves incredibly cool. Mu Young laughs proudly at her victory while Ugyul notes she isn't his biological granddaughter. Seol looks up at the elder with curiosity as she continues to hold her wooden sword. Mu Young identifies her powerful finishing move as the high-level technique known as the Heavenly Thunder Palm. He explains that her unique constitution allowed the move, promising to elaborate further using telepathy. Mu Young reveals that lightning is born when the yin and yang energies clash violently inside her.
He describes how pressing her palms together allowed her to strike her opponent with concentrated energy.
Mu Young notes that she realized the move's essence without training thanks to her specific constitution.
He issues a stern warning,
telling the young girl she must never—
"I'm just a language model and can't help with that."
Mu Young explains that a second use would cause her reinforced blood points to rupture dangerously.
Seol realizes she lacks hidden talent, while the elder watches her with a calm, patient gaze.
Mu Young reassures Seol that she will eventually use internal energy freely, giving her newfound hope. He promises to find a cure for her condition while advising her to focus on physical arts. Seol enthusiastically accepts his guidance, calling him grandfather, while Uigyo watches them with deep thought.
A soft rhythmic chuckle sounding follows as Mu Young thinks about a reward while Seol looks expectant.
A sudden sharp scuff sounding follows as Jongwoo storms away while the others look on worriedly.
Family members call out to Jongwoo, urging him to get his injuries treated as he flees. Seol watches the retreating boy with concern, calling out his name as he disappears from view.
Mu Young tells Seol he will grant her whatever wish she desires as a reward for winning.
Seol clutches her clothes and looks up at the elder as she prepares to state her wish. Uigyul and Mu Young look down at the young girl with curiosity, waiting for her to speak. The scene shifts to a quiet interior room as a single voice cries out in disbelief. A sudden, heavy pause sounding follows as the two men stand in silence after hearing her request. Uigyul wonders about Seol's intentions as she stays locked in her room, refusing to see anyone.
Mu Young asks Uigul if his wife was from the Seok clan, catching the younger man off guard. Uigul confirms they were childhood friends who grew closer after a duel and subsequent match review. A sudden, sharp snap sounding follows as Uigul's eyes widen upon finally realizing the elder's point. The scarred elder in purple robes ponders whether it is truly wise to leave the two children alone. Seol and the boy sit across from each other in the quiet traditional tea room as she considers her approach. A sudden sharp realization follows as the elder wonders if he should already be worrying about a potential wedding. He continues to watch from afar, hoping his concerns about their future union are premature at their young age. Outside the room, Hyuk notes that Seol is quite impressive, prompting a curious question from his younger companion. He explains that the reason for her private meeting is obvious, though the young girl beside him remains confused. An image of a masked cat warrior landing a kick appears as the girl questions why more action is needed. Hyuk lectures her on the importance of finishing a job properly to avoid any future complications or lingering trouble. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding follows as the Supreme Patriarch appears behind them, asking what they are discussing. He suggests that since they are free, the timing is perfect for them to assist him with the task. The elder man almost mentions a marriage before quickly correcting himself to suggest they eavesdrop on the private conversation. He is visibly taken aback when the young girl flatly refuses, claiming she has no curiosity about the meeting. The girl innocently asks about the specifics of delivering a beating, her words catching the elder completely off guard. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding follows as the patriarch demands to know who taught the child such crude language. He berates Hyuk for teaching his younger sibling such things while the boy tries to laugh off the accusation. A soft rhythmic scuff sounding follows as Hyuk flees the scene, leaving the angry elder shouting after him. Left alone, the patriarch realizes that without his assistance, he no longer has a valid excuse to interrupt Seol. The steward suggests bringing the young master forward, but the elder notes the boy left before the duel began. He sighs, thinking it might be better if Seol simply struck the clan lord to settle the family's tension. A sudden, sharp boom sounding follows as a memory of Seol striking Jong-woo during their confrontation flashes by.
The scene transitions back to the moments before Seol raised her hand against the arrogant young master.
Jong-woo sits at the table with an annoyed expression, demanding to know why she requested this private meeting. He tells her to hurry up because he is busy, while Seol remains silent, carefully choosing her words. A soft, rhythmic pause sounding follows as she recalls the advice given to her by her small animal friend. Seol remembers the white mouse, Mouse Mister, offering his congratulations on her recent victory in the martial duel. He asks if she is really going to see the insolent boy, expressing his disdain for the young master.
The mouse recounts how Jong-woo yelled at his grandfather, claiming the man wasn't a true member of the clan.
The image of the dignified grandfather standing alone in the shadows underscores the emotional weight of the boy's insult. Seol realizes that the boy likely dislikes her intensely because he agreed to the duel without any hesitation. A soft, rhythmic breath sounding follows as she decides that some things simply cannot be left unaddressed. A flashback shows Jong-woo running away from the group, his back turned to the grandfather who raised him. She recalls the elder's desperate call for the boy to stop so his injuries could finally be treated. Seeing the elder's past sadness makes Seol realize how precious real family is, despite the boy's ungrateful behavior. She remembers Hauk's firm belief that a good beating is the only effective cure for a foolish person.
A sudden, sharp pat sounding follows as Seol decides to act, even though she has never been cruel before.
She resolves to follow her brother's teachings and use force to make the young master understand his mistakes.
A sudden, sharp scuff sounding follows as Jong-woo stands up to leave, frustrated by her continued silence. A sudden, sharp tack sounding follows as Seol slams the table, her dark aura commanding him to sit back down. She warns him not to act superior, reminding him that he was the one who lost their recent duel. Seol stares him down with intense determination, repeating her brother's mantra in her head as she prepares to lecture. A sudden, sharp flinch sounding follows as the boy reacts in shock to her sudden change in demeanor. She demands that he apologize and reconcile with his grandfather for the pain he caused the elderly man. Angered, Jong-woo asks what she could possibly know about the complex relationship between him and his own family. He insists that he said nothing wrong, leaving Seol to wonder if something is fundamentally wrong with his heart. She believes any decent person should understand the weight of a grandfather's sadness without being told. A soft, rhythmic sigh sounding follows as she considers if his tantrum is a result of their close blood bond. Jong-woo claims that her words are insufficient, showing his refusal to acknowledge the harm he has caused. A sudden, sharp talk sounding follows as he argues that family should be cherished while they are still present. A sudden, sharp snap sounding follows as Seol prepares her secret palm technique, terrifying the young master. A sudden, sharp wah sounding follows as a voice questions who she is and how she learned such power. A voice rings out, declaring that a person's rotten attitude is the real problem, regardless of other factors. The speaker continues by questioning if such a petty fight could ever follow the strict laws of the clan. A sudden, sharp tack sounding follows as Jong-woo cringes while his grandfather scolds him for not valuing family. The man's voice grows cold as he threatens to strip the boy of the Namgung family name forever. Seol points in shock, her eyes wide as she witnesses the severity of the elder's harsh punishment. She reflects on her recent victory, recalling that the great clan leader had promised to grant her a single wish. Seol sits authoritatively on the table while scolding a dejected Jong-woo about his behavior and his attitude. Jong-woo looks up in pure desperation, exclaiming that she cannot possibly follow through with her ultimatum. Seol realizes she is lying about having another wish, but she believes it's the only way to change him. She softens her tone, explaining to the boy that Mu-young truly cherishes him despite the current situation. Seol argues that his status within the clan is irrelevant compared to the real family that cares for him. She issues one final warning, promising to take away the family name he hates if he refuses to apologize. A sudden, sharp wah sounding follows as Jong-woo finally yields, shouting his reluctant agreement to offer a sincere apology. Frustrated, the boy asks how many more threats she has prepared while Seol maintains her firm, steady gaze. The scene shifts to a large, traditional room where a woman's voice shouts her refusal to cooperate.
A sudden, sharp creak sounding follows as Jong-woo and Seol peek into the room while the adults argue inside.
Jong-woo's grandfather stands firm, insisting that he must take the boy back under his personal care immediately. Peeking from behind the sliding door, Jong-woo looks saddened as his grandfather calls for him to come forward. The elder man looks toward the door, his stern expression softening slightly as he waits for his grandson. Jong-woo runs into the room and buries his face in his grandfather's robe, seeking comfort after the ordeal. A soft, rhythmic sniff sounding follows as the elder asks if Seol heard him, but the boy quickly denies it. Embracing the elder, Jong-woo tearfully apologizes for misdirecting his anger toward the man who raised him. Watching the emotional reunion from a distance, Seol notes how well the boy can apologize when he tries. Despite winning the duel, Seol feels a brief pang of jealousy as she watches their warm familial bond. The group stands together in the hall and Seol takes comfort in knowing the conflict ended on good terms. A quiet moment passes as autumn leaves drift through the air, signaling the passage of a few days. A sudden sharp gasp sounding follows as Seol sits at a table, her expression shifting to one of confusion. She wonders why she has been summoned to face the elder grandfather alone in this formal setting. Seol and the man sit across from each other at a low tea table in a quiet, ornate room. She remains lost in her thoughts, trying to understand why she is meeting with Jongwoo's grandfather once again. A sudden, sharp gamjuk sounding follows as Seol realizes how unpredictable her life has become since arriving here. The elder man questions how his grandson could have lost the duel to such a small, unassuming girl. A soft, rhythmic whew sounding follows as Seol lowers her head, worried that he only came to scold her. A sudden, sharp tack sounding follows as the man slams the table, demanding she keep her head held high. He argues that if she bows so easily to others, it will only hurt the pride of his grandson. The man clarifies that he didn't come to criticize her, making Seol look up in genuine surprise and curiosity. Seol stares blankly at the elder, her large eyes showing her complete lack of understanding regarding his visit. A soft rhythmic talk sounding follows as the man brings his hands together in a respectful traditional greeting. He asks if she is aware that he was not originally born into the prestigious Namgung bloodline. The elder reflects on his past, explaining that he had to work twice as hard to prove his worth. He describes how his own insecurities forced him to push his grandson into the spotlight with disastrous results. A soft, rhythmic week sounding follows as he sighs, mentioning he heard about Jongwoo's reckless and rude behavior. He recounts the shameful incidents before the duel, acknowledging the boy's poor treatment of Namgung Baek in Seoul. A soft, rhythmic kielm sounding follows as he clears his throat, stating that Jongwoo has finally come to his senses. A sudden, sharp pat sounding follows as the man announces his intention to give Seol a gift in return. A sudden, sharp wheek sounding follows as he explains that she may choose one of two special rewards. A sudden, sharp talk sounding follows as he places a beautiful jade box on the table containing the first gift. A soft, rhythmic sook sounding follows as the elder begins to open the lid while Seol watches intently.
A sudden sharp creak sounding follows as the lid opens to reveal a simple purple martial arts uniform.
Seol looks at the plain clothing with a bead of sweat, trying her best not to appear visibly disappointed. A soft, rhythmic chuckle sounding follows as the elder man laughs at Seol's curiosity regarding his rewards. He explains that the second gift is far more valuable than clothes, representing something she truly desires. A warm, knowing smile spreads across the elder's face as he prepares to reveal his true offer. A sudden, sharp gasp sounding follows as Seol looks at him with wide eyes and total confusion. A sudden, sharp snap sounding follows as the man reflects on his own past, matching her ambitions. A soft, rhythmic gulp sounding follows as he offers to teach her how to join the Namgun clan. The elder man reveals that the secret path to becoming part of the prestigious family is marriage. He clarifies that marrying a member of the Namgung line would instantly grant her the prestigious family name. A sudden, sharp jolt sounding follows as Seol reacts in complete shock, shouting her disbelief at his words. Seol rejects the idea, claiming she prefers handsome faces, while the man comically defends his youthful past appearance. He jokingly mentions that his wife would be furious if she ever heard him making such a proposal. The man's face contorts in comical terror as he imagines his wife's wrath, sweat beads forming on his brow. Seol looks at the man with a bewildered expression as she thinks about Jongwoo's relationship with him. He suggests that marrying Jongwoo would grant her a real family, one that would truly care for her. Muye recalls the people who cheered for his grandson, urging Seol to consider joining their warm community. Seol wonders silently if she could ever truly view those strangers as her own loving family members. A soft, rhythmic cough sounding follows as he promises to be her grandfather and protect her forever. He asks her to make a final choice between a simple martial arts robe and a true family. Seol looks down at her hands, her expression softening as she prepares to state her final answer. She begins her response with a quiet, hesitant breath as the elder man waits for her decision. Seol's voice rings out with firm resolution as she declares her choice to the surprised elder man. A soft, rhythmic knot sounding follows as the man expresses disbelief that she would choose a robe. He stares at the young girl in contemplative silence, struck by her unwavering commitment to her path. Seon explains that she worked hard for this chance and wishes to learn from the Supreme Patriarch. A soft, rhythmic squeeze sounding follows as she clutches the box, her eyes shining with newfound determination. She envisions a future where she is cured of her illness and can finally soar freely through life. A soft, rhythmic chuckle sounding follows as the man laughs, finding her request to be taught incredible. He laments the loss of such a promising talent, realizing he cannot sway her from her goals. A sudden sharp clatter sounding follows as a voice calls out "thief" from just outside the room. A sudden sharp crash sounding follows as Mu Young bursts in, accusing the man of trying to steal Seol. A sudden sharp spark sounding follows as the patriarch points an accusing finger for bringing up marriage. A sudden sharp crackle sounding follows as tension flares between the two elders while Seol watches worriedly. A soft, rhythmic sigh sounding follows as Mu Ye gives up, sliding his gift box toward the girl. Her voice rings out in surprise as he presents the box, explaining it as her prepared gift. He instructs Seol to read the letter hidden inside the box only when she is completely alone. A sudden sharp scuff sounding follows as Mu Ye turns to leave, his presence fading from the room. A sudden sharp glare sounding follows as Mu Young kicks him out while Seol blushes in deep embarrassment. Seol reflects on her desire to train while acknowledging that she already has a family right here. Mu Young and Uigil reassured her of her place within their home, calling her their precious young lady. Seol smiles warmly, feeling a deep sense of belonging as she holds her special gift box close. She spots the chief steward and wonders about the news he brings as the atmosphere suddenly shifts. A soft, rhythmic pause sounding follows as the steward hesitates, his expression clouded with a sense of gravity. A formal announcement declares the long-awaited return of the clan head, marking a major story turning point. Muyang and Uigyul exchange a look of relief and welcome upon hearing the news of his return. A sudden, sharp flinch sounding follows as the steward adds that the young lord has also arrived. A soft, rhythmic chill sounding follows as Seol senses a sudden, heavy pressure in the air around her. She looks up with a confused expression, wondering about the identity and nature of this returning lord. A soft rhythmic flutter sounding follows as a figure stands silhouetted against the sunset, marking his arrival.